John Miller stood at the center of the vast, circular chamber. The room was cold despite the bodies of 27 alien representatives that surrounded him. Each sat behind curved desks that formed a complete circle, with Miller alone in the middle. Lights from above cast his shadow in all directions. "The Galactic Council has reached a decision," announced the Exilian representative, his blue skin shimmering under the lights. "Earth has expanded too quickly. Your technological advancements proceed without proper oversight. Your species remains unpredictable." Miller kept his face neutral, though his heart raced. As Earth's ambassador, he had spent 3 years trying to earn humanity a respected place among the stars. Now it was falling apart. "Therefore," continued the Exilian, "we impose the following sanctions. All human vessels will be restricted to your home solar system. All faster-than-light technology transfers to Earth are suspended. All human colonies outside your system must be abandoned within 1 standard year." Miller gripped the edge of his podium. "The Council cannot do this. We have followed all established protocols for new species." The Volari representative, a small creature with 6 limbs, spoke next. "The decision is final. Ambassador Miller, Earth presents too great a risk to galactic stability." "This is not about risk," Miller said. "This is about fear. Fear of competition." The chamber erupted in angry voices. The Exilian raised a 3-fingered hand for silence. "You will deliver our decree to your leaders. Council enforcement ships will ensure compliance. This session is ended." The journey back to Earth took Miller 4 days in his diplomatic vessel. 4 days to think about how humanity had gone from celebrating their acceptance into galactic society to facing what amounted to imprisonment in their own solar system. On the 5th day, Miller stood before the United Nations Security Council in New York. The room was packed with world leaders, military officers, and scientists. The UN Secretary-General sat at the center, her face grim. "The sanctions are effectively a blockade," Miller explained, his voice echoing in the silent chamber. "They will cripple our off-world mining operations. Our colonies on Proxima Centauri will have to be abandoned." "How can they justify this?" asked the Chinese president. "They don't need to justify it," Miller replied. "The Council controls all major trade routes and has technology centuries beyond ours. Until now, they've shared some of that technology as part of our integration process." The room filled with angry voices. "Quiet, please," called the Secretary-General. "What options do we have, Ambassador?" Miller spread his hands. "We can comply and hope to change their minds over time. The alternative is resistance, but their military force is overwhelming." From the back of the room, a woman in a naval uniform stood up. Admiral Catherine Wright had commanded Earth's defense fleet since first contact 8 years ago. "Permission to speak freely," she said. The Secretary-General nodded. "The Council believes we'll roll over because we're outgunned," said Wright. "But they've overlooked something important about humanity. Throughout our history, we've faced overwhelming odds and still found ways to prevail." She walked to the front of the room, her steps confident. "I studied Council military tactics for years. They rely on superior technology, not strategy. They haven't fought a real war in centuries. And most importantly, they know nothing about human determination." Miller watched as Wright's words changed the mood in the room from despair to something else. "Something dangerous. What exactly are you suggesting, Admiral?" asked the Secretary-General. Wright looked around the room, meeting the eyes of each leader. "I'm suggesting that perhaps it's time we show the Council what human defiance really looks like." The room fell silent. "That would be suicide," Miller said. "Their ships could be vulnerable in ways we haven't explored," Wright interrupted. "The Council expects compliance because that's what they always get. They've never sanctioned a species that refused to be chained." The Secretary-General leaned forward. "Admiral Wright, are you proposing we fight the entire Galactic Council?" Wright smiled slightly. "I'm proposing we don't accept limitations imposed by others. Not without showing them exactly who they're dealing with first." 3 weeks after the United Nations meeting, Admiral Wright stood in a vast underground chamber beneath the lunar surface. Workers moved quickly around her, installing equipment and running cables across the rocky floor. The facility had once been a research station, but now it served a new purpose. Progress report, Dr. Blackwood, Wright said to the man beside her. Dr. Alan Blackwood pushed his glasses up his nose and consulted his tablet. His lab coat was wrinkled from days without sleep. We've set up the quantum labs in Section 3. The weapon testing range will be ready in 2 days, and we've managed to hide all power signatures from Council scanners. Wright nodded. Operation Defiance is officially underway then. Yes, but we're still missing a key component, Blackwood said. We need someone who can move between systems without being detected. At that same moment, in a dusty bar on Mars Colony, Steve Norton downed the last of his drink. The former Marine looked around at the other patrons, mostly miners and traders. No one paid attention to the woman who slid into the seat across from him. Captain Norton, she said quietly. I'm Agent Kelly from Earth Intelligence. Norton studied her face. I don't work for the government anymore. We know. That's why we need you. She slid a small device across the table. Your ship, the Intrepid, is the fastest independent freighter in the system, and you know how to stay off the radar. Norton picked up the device but didn't activate it. What's the job? Earth needs people who can travel where official ships can't go. People who can find allies, gather information. She leaned closer. The Council thinks they've trapped us in our own system. We need to prove them wrong. Norton thought for a moment. He'd left military service years ago, tired of taking orders. But the sanctions had hit independent traders like him hard. What's in it for me? Besides helping your species survive, full upgrades for your ship with technology the Council doesn't know we have. Norton activated the device. A holographic map appeared, showing several star systems outside Sol. These are your first destinations, Kelly explained. Find anyone who resents Council rule. There are bound to be others who faced sanctions before. Back on Earth, President Diana Foster sat at her desk in the Oval Office. On the screen before her, the Exilian representative waited for her response. I assure you, Earth accepts the Council's decision, Foster said, her voice smooth and respectful. We are already recalling our outer colonies. We are pleased by your cooperation, the Exilian said. Council inspectors will arrive in 6 months to verify compliance. When the transmission ended, Foster's face hardened. She pressed a button on her desk. Send in the Joint Chiefs. Minutes later, the room filled with military leaders. General Patrick Rogers of the Army, Admiral Wright, General Maria Garcia of the Air Force, and others took their seats around the table. The Council bought our story, Foster told them. We have 6 months before inspections begin. Operation Defiance is proceeding on schedule, Wright reported. The lunar facility is nearly operational. Dr. Blackwood's team has already begun work on shield-penetrating technology. And our covert network? Foster asked. We've recruited Captain Norton to establish contact with potential allies, Wright said. His ship leaves tomorrow with our new stealth system installed. Foster stood and walked to the window. Outside, the Washington Monument stood tall against the blue sky. For thousands of years, it had witnessed humanity's struggles and triumphs. For the record, she said without turning, I want it known that we tried peace first. We followed their rules. We sought cooperation. Yes, Madam President, General Rogers said. Foster turned back to face them. The Council believes we'll surrender our future without a fight. They think sanctions will keep us contained and compliant. She placed both hands on the table and leaned forward. They clearly know nothing about human history. What are your orders? Admiral Wright asked. We will smile and nod, Foster said, her voice gaining strength. We will appear to comply with their every demand. And all the while, we will prepare to show them why you should never corner a species that survived its own nuclear age. 6 months passed quickly. On the Jupiter outpost, workers rushed to hide evidence of their true activities before the council inspectors arrived. Director Frank Daniels watched as the last crates of research equipment were loaded onto unmarked transport ships bound for the asteroid belt. Final check complete, his assistant reported. All restricted technology has been moved. The decoy labs are in place. Daniels nodded. And the quantum communication system, hidden beneath the maintenance level. Even if they scan for it, the new shielding should mask its signature. A light flashed on Daniel's wrist device. They're here. Everyone remember your roles. The council inspection team consisted of 3 aliens, a tall Exilian leader, a spider-like Zextal engineer, and a Volari data specialist. They moved through the facility with scanning devices, checking labs, and questioning staff. Your cooperation is noted, the Exilian said to Daniels as they examined the main research area. Though we find it unusual how quickly humans accepted the council's decision. Daniels smiled politely. We're a practical species. We understand our place now. The Volari studied a screen showing Jupiter's moons, and you've truly abandoned all faster-than-light research. As ordered, we've redirected our scientists to improving life within our system. The inspection lasted 3 days. When the council ship finally departed, Daniels went to the hidden communication room beneath the station. Jupiter outpost to lunar base. Inspectors have left. They suspect nothing. Admiral Wright's voice came through clearly despite the vast distance. Well done. Similar reports from Mars and Venus outposts. Phase 1 complete. Far from Earth, near Alpha Centauri, Captain Lisa Rodriguez guided her scout ship Artemis through the darkness of space. The ship's new stealth systems kept it invisible to council sensors. Rodriguez and her crew of 5 had been watching this sector for weeks. Target approaching, her navigator said quietly. Council supply ship on schedule. Rodriguez studied the data. The alien vessel was large and slow, carrying resources between council worlds. More importantly, it traveled without military escort. Weapons status, she asked. EMP charges ready. Boarding team standing by. Rodriguez took a deep breath. This would be the first direct action against council forces. If they succeeded, it would prove humans could strike beyond their system. If they failed, it would expose Operation Defiance before they were ready. Begin approach. Silent running. The Artemis glided toward the larger ship, using the cover of a nearby asteroid field. When they were within range, Rodriguez gave the order. Fire EMP charges. Blue pulses of energy shot from the Artemis, striking the council ship at 3 points. Its lights flickered and died as systems shut down. Boarding team go. 6 crew members in spacesuits crossed to the disabled ship. They moved quickly through the airlock and into the cargo hold. The alien crew, confused by the sudden power loss, offered little resistance. In 20 minutes it was done. The boarding team returned with data drives and samples of advanced technology. Rodriguez ordered the Artemis to withdraw, leaving the council ship disabled but with life support intact. Send the message, she told her communications officer. A simple text transmission went out, encoded to look like it came from Triaxian space, a non-council civilization that had tensions with the Exilian. 3 days later, in the lunar base laboratory, Dr. Blackwood examined the captured technology with growing excitement. This is it, he told Admiral Wright. The key component we needed. Wright studied the strange device. What exactly am I looking at, Doctor? Council shield technology. Their ships have always been impenetrable because their shields operate on principles we couldn't crack. Blackwood's eyes gleamed. But now we have a working sample, and I found a weakness. He brought up a diagram on the screen. Their shields block all known forms of energy weapons by creating a phase variance. But if we modulate our weapons to match this frequency pattern, and then create a sudden shift, we can punch right through. Wright's expression hardened. How long until you can adapt this to our ships? 2 months, maybe less. At that moment, in the Galactic Council chamber, the Exilian representative slammed his fist on the table. This is an outrage. Triaxian raiders have attacked a Council supply ship. They stole sensitive technology and left our crew stranded. The Triaxian delegate rose in anger. We did no such thing. This is a false accusation. As the Council erupted in argument, no one noticed the small smile on the face of Ambassador Miller, who sat quietly at the back of the chamber, observing the chaos that one small human operation had caused among the mighty Council races. A sleek gray ship approached Earth under heavy guard. It was unlike any vessel humans had built, with smooth lines that seemed to bend light around its hull. Ambassador Linda Carson watched from the observation deck of the orbital station as the ship docked. The Triaxians actually came, she said to Admiral Wright, who stood beside her. Wright nodded. They're curious. The Council blamed them for our attack, and they want to know why. The Triaxian delegation emerged from their ship. They looked almost human except for their golden skin and eyes with vertical pupils. Their leader was tall and moved with careful precision. Ambassador Carson, the Triaxian said with a slight bow. I am Delegate Curval. We received your unofficial invitation. Carson led the visitors to a private meeting room. No recordings, no other staff, just Carson, Wright, and 3 Triaxians. The Council has accused us of attacking their supply ship, Curval said once the door closed. A ship we never approached. Carson exchanged a glance with Wright. This was the moment of truth. How much to reveal to a potential ally. The Council has imprisoned humanity in our own system, Carson said carefully. We are seeking ways to challenge this decision. The Triaxian's eyes narrowed. Are you saying humans conducted the raid, but made it appear Triaxian? I'm saying the Council has a history of restricting species they view as threats. We believe the Triaxians might understand our position. Curval was silent for a long moment. The Council has limited our expansion for decades. They claim it is for safety, but we know they fear competition. The Triaxian leaned forward. Tell me more about these ways you are challenging their decision. Meanwhile, far beyond Council space, Steve Norton's ship Intrepid drifted near an ancient space station. The structure was built into a small moon, almost invisible against the dark rock. Norton had spent weeks following rumors and bribing information brokers to find this place. No response to our hails, his co-pilot said. Norton frowned. They're watching us. Keep broadcasting the recognition code. After an hour of waiting, a soft blue light appeared on the station's surface. A docking bay opened like a mouth in the rock. That's our invitation, Norton said. Let's not keep them waiting. Inside the station, the air was thick and warm. The walls glowed with soft light that seemed to come from within the material itself. Norton and his co-pilot were led through winding corridors by a silent figure in robes. Finally, they entered a chamber where an ancient being sat on a simple throne. The Narutal elder looked like a tall, thin human with skin like polished silver. His eyes were completely black. A human vessel, the elder said, his voice surprisingly deep. So far from your home. Norton stepped forward. I come seeking the wisdom of the Narutal, the first species to be sanctioned by the Galactic Council. The elder's expression didn't change. Many seek us. Few find us. Why should we care about human problems? Because we're fighting back, Norton said bluntly. And we might actually win. For the first time, interest showed in the elder's face. Bold words. The Council has ruled space for 10,000 years. Maybe it's time for a change. The elder studied Norton for a long moment. Then he rose and walked to a wall panel. When he touched it, the wall became transparent, revealing a vast chamber beyond. Inside were ships of designs Norton had never seen, weapons of strange configuration, and technology that seemed to defy physics. These are the remnants of what we once were, the elder said. Before the Council decided we were too dangerous to be allowed our full potential. He turned to Norton. What exactly do you seek from us? Knowledge. Weapons. Anything that can give us an edge against Council technology. The elder nodded slowly. I will show you designs for defensive systems the Council believes were destroyed centuries ago. In return, when humans break free of their chains, remember who helped you. Back on Earth, military engineer Paul Jackson studied the schematics transmitted from Norton's mission. His team had been working around the clock in a secret facility beneath the Pacific Ocean. This is incredible, he said to his chief assistant. These designs change everything we thought we knew about defensive capabilities. He pulled up the prototype plans for Earth's new warship class. With quick movements, he began incorporating elements from the Neridal designs. When Admiral Wright received the updated plans later that day, she studied them carefully. The new ship class would be smaller than they had originally planned, but far more maneuverable. Most importantly, it could match Council vessels in combat. For the first time in months, Wright smiled. Now we have a fighting chance. 1 year after the Sanctions began, the Galactic Council held an emergency session. The Grand Chamber was filled with tension as representatives from all 27 member species gathered. Ambassador Miller sat quietly in the Earth observation section, watching the proceedings with careful attention. Order. We will have order, the council leader demanded as voices rose in argument. Delegate Ziv of the Volari rose to speak. Unlike most council members, the small six-limbed alien had visited Earth several times before the Sanctions. Esteemed colleagues, Ziv began, I propose we reconsider the sanctions against Earth. Our current approach has created more problems than solutions. The Exilian representative immediately objected. The humans were expanding too quickly, developing technologies without proper oversight. The sanctions were necessary. Were they? Ziv questioned. Or did we simply fear a new competitor? In the years since sanctions began, we have seen increased raids on our supply routes. Tensions with the Triaxians have nearly led to open conflict. Perhaps guiding humans would have been wiser than attempting to contain them. The chamber erupted in debate. Miller noted which representatives seemed to support Ziv's position and which remained firmly opposed. The council was dividing, exactly as Earth had hoped. Meanwhile, Dr. Blackwood sat in his laboratory beneath the lunar surface, watching lines of code flow across multiple screens. Beside him sat a young programmer named Eric Fisher. Is mine RVA working? Blackwood asked. Fisher nodded. The AI has successfully penetrated 3 council networks so far. It's gathering data without detection. Mine RVA was the most advanced artificial intelligence Earth had ever created. Designed specifically to infiltrate and analyze alien systems, it moved through council networks like a ghost. Look at this, Fisher said suddenly, pointing to one screen. Internal communications between council members. Mine RVA just decrypted them. Blackwood leaned forward, reading quickly. So that's how it happened. The Exilian forced the sanctions vote. They threatened to cut off trade with any species that opposed them. Not all council members wanted to sanction Earth, Fisher realized. Download everything, Blackwood ordered. This is exactly what we need. On the other side of the world, General William Bennett watched as his Special Forces teams ran through training exercises. The soldiers moved with precision through a mock-up of a council ship, using weapons designed to disable rather than kill. Faster through Section 3, Bennett called out. Remember, council ships have emergency bulkheads that can seal in seconds. The teams had been training for months, preparing for precise strikes against Exilian military targets. Bennett had one strict rule: no civilian casualties. Humans would not lower themselves to indiscriminate attacks. General, you need to see this, his aide said, rushing in with a tablet. The screen showed a news broadcast from a council world. Footage played of a recent raid where a human Special Forces team had breached an Exilian research facility. The video clearly showed the human soldiers helping Exilian civilians evacuate before destroying military equipment. This leaked to council media, the aide explained. It's playing on multiple worlds. Bennett watched as the footage continued. The council news anchor was questioning the official narrative about dangerous humans, when the evidence showed them specifically avoiding harm to civilians. "Good," Bennett said. "Let them see who we really are." Back in the council chamber, the debate had grown heated. Several representatives were now openly questioning the sanctions policy. "The humans have shown restraint even in their resistance," a Kethler delegate pointed out. "Their raids target military assets while avoiding civilian casualties. They are merely trying to manipulate public opinion," the Exilian representative countered. "Perhaps," Delegate Ziv responded, "or perhaps we have misjudged them. Perhaps they are exactly the kind of species that should join the galactic community as equals, not subjects." From his observation position, Miller sent a coded message back to Earth. "Council division growing. Exilian influence weakening. Public opinion shifting on multiple worlds." President Foster read the message in her office and turned to Admiral Wright. "Phase 5 is working. Time to prepare for the final stage." Wright nodded. "The fleet will be ready in 3 months. Dr. Blackwood has installed the shield-penetrating technology on our first 6 warships. The Triaxians have provided the navigational data we requested. And the Nyrdal weapons. Testing complete. They perform even better than we hoped." Foster looked out her window at the Washington Monument, standing tall against the setting sun. "Then it's time to deliver our ultimatum to the Council." 18 months after the sanctions began, the Galactic Council chamber buzzed with nervous activity. An emergency session had been called without warning. Representatives from all 27 species took their seats, whispering among themselves about the reason for the sudden meeting. The huge screens at the front of the chamber flickered to life. The image of President Diana Foster appeared, her expression calm but determined. A collective gasp went up from the council members. "Greetings, representatives of the Galactic Council," Foster began. "I speak to you directly today because matters have reached a critical point." The Exilian representative rose in anger. "This is outrageous. Earth has no authority to address the Council without permission." Foster continued as if she hadn't heard the objection. "For 18 months, humanity has endured your sanctions. You believed you could contain us within our solar system, limit our technology, and restrict our future." On the screens, the view widened to show Foster standing in a large command center. Behind her, screens displayed detailed maps of Council space and data about Council military deployments. "As you can see," Foster said, "we are fully aware of your internal politics, your military positions, and the divisions within your ranks. We know that the Exilian forced many of you to support sanctions against Earth through economic threats." The council chamber erupted in shocked voices. How could humans know these things? The Exilian representative looked shaken. Foster's voice grew stronger. "Today, I offer you a choice. Lift the sanctions against Earth and accept humans as equal partners in galactic affairs, or face a conflict unlike any the Council has experienced." "This is absurd," the Exilian representative shouted. "You are in no position to make demands." Foster smiled slightly. "Are we not?" "Delegate Ziv of the Volari, your research indicates that Council military forces have not engaged in actual combat for over 3 centuries. Is that correct?" The Volari delegate looked stunned at being addressed directly. Yes, that is accurate." "And Delegate Marine of the Kethlar, your recent report questioned whether Council defense systems have kept pace with theoretical weapons development." "Correct." The Kethlar representative sank lower in his seat, shocked that humans had access to his confidential report. Foster's expression hardened. "We come seeking peace as partners, not subjugation as children. The choice is yours, but be warned. Humanity will not accept imprisonment in our own solar system. We will not surrender our right to grow and explore." The transmission ended abruptly, leaving the council chamber in chaos. The Exilian representative quickly took control of the situation. "This is clearly an empty threat. The humans have no means to challenge our military might. They seek to divide us through fear and misinformation." After hours of heated debate, the Council voted to reject Earth's ultimatum. Instead, they authorized a military force to contain the human threat once and for all. As Council warships gathered at their central base, Admiral Jorax of the Exilian studied the deployment plans. 50 of their most powerful vessels would enter the Sol system in battle formation, overwhelming any human defenses before they could organize. "The humans have become too troublesome," he told his officers. "This show of force will remind them of their place in the galactic order." What Admiral Jorax didn't know was that human quantum sensors, developed from captured Council technology, had already detected the fleet's movement. Every ship, every weapon, every planned position was being tracked and analyzed. In Earth orbit, Admiral Wright stood on the bridge of the newly completed flagship Dauntless. The ship represented humanity's greatest technological achievement, a fusion of Earth ingenuity, Nyrdal defensive systems, and Triaxian propulsion concepts. Around the Dauntless, 5 other warships of the same class moved into formation. They were smaller than Council vessels, but incorporated technologies the Council believed humans couldn't possibly possess. "All ships report ready, Admiral," her executive officer said. Wright nodded. "Position the fleet behind Mars. We'll let them enter the system before we reveal ourselves." As the Council warships began their approach to the Sol system, Wright opened a secure channel to all Earth forces. "This is Admiral Wright. The Council has rejected peace and chosen conflict. They believe they will find a compliant, frightened species. Instead, they'll face the full determination of humanity. All ships, battle stations." When the first Council vessels crossed the boundary of the Sol system, Admiral Wright opened a communication channel to the Exilian commander. Her message was simple: "You should have taken the offer." Admiral Jorax of the Council fleet felt confident as his ships entered the Sol system. 50 of the most powerful vessels in Council space moved in perfect formation toward Earth. Their sensors showed only minimal defenses and a scattered collection of small human ships fleeing their approach. "Pathetic," Jorax said to his second-in-command. "They talk bravely but run at the first sign of real power." "Sir," his sensor officer called out suddenly, "I'm detecting unusual energy readings behind the 4th planet." Before Jorax could respond, 6 ships appeared from behind Mars. They were smaller than Council vessels, but moved with incredible speed, their hulls gleaming in the distant sunlight. "Scan those ships," Jorax ordered, feeling the first hint of concern. "Sir, their shield configurations are. I've never seen anything like this. And their weapon systems don't match any known human technology." Jorax's eyes narrowed. "Open a channel." The face of Admiral Wright appeared on his screen. Her expression was calm, focused. "This is Admiral Catherine Wright of Earth Defense Fleet. You have entered sovereign human space without permission. Withdraw immediately." Jorax almost laughed. 6 ships against 50. You cannot hope to prevail. Surrender now, and the Council will be merciful." Wright's expression didn't change. "We were hoping you'd say that." The transmission cut off. In the next moment, the human ships accelerated to speeds Jorax thought impossible. They split into pairs and attacked from 3 directions at once. "Launch fighters. Power main weapons," Jorax shouted. Council fighters poured from the larger ships, hundreds of small craft moving to intercept the human vessels. But something was wrong. The human ships were firing weapons that somehow passed through Council shields as if they weren't there. On the Dauntless, Admiral Wright watched as the first phase of their attack unfolded exactly as planned. Dr. Blackwood's shield-penetrating technology worked perfectly. The Council ship's greatest defense was useless. "Captain Harris, deploy fighter squadrons," she ordered. From Earth's moon, a hidden base suddenly revealed itself. Dozens of small, fast human fighters launched, led by Captain Ryan Harris. Each fighter carried weapons designed specifically to target Council vessel weak points. "Wolf Squadron, form up," Harris called to his pilots. "Remember your training. Their ships are bigger, but we're faster and their shields can't stop our weapons." The human fighters tore through the Council formation, firing precisely at engine sections and weapon emplacements. Council ships that had never faced real combat in centuries found themselves under attack by pilots who had trained specifically for this battle. In orbit around Jupiter, more human ships appeared, catching the Council fleet in a pincer movement. Among them were 3 vessels of Triaxian design. The Triaxians had entered the battle on Earth's side. "Sir, we're taking heavy damage across the fleet," Jorax's tactical officer reported, his voice shaking. "Their weapons are penetrating our shields. The Triaxians have joined them. We've lost 12 ships already." Jorax stared in disbelief at the tactical display. How could this be happening? The mighty Council fleet was being torn apart by a species that should have been helpless against them. "Target their homeworld," he commanded in desperation. "Prepare planet killer missiles." 3 of his largest ships moved into position to launch the devastating weapons. If he couldn't win this battle, he would at least make humans pay an unbearable price. On the Dauntless, Wright saw the Council ships repositioning. "They're targeting Earth. All ships, focus fire on those 3 vessels." But even as her fleet moved to intercept, Jorax's ships prepared to fire. The planet killer missiles would destroy all life on Earth's surface. At that moment, a massive energy beam shot from the lunar surface, striking one of the Council ships and cutting it in half. A second beam followed, then a third, destroying all 3 ships before they could launch their missiles. "What was that?" Wright demanded. "The lunar defense base, Admiral," her communications officer replied. Dr. Blackwood activated the Neridal weapon systems. Seeing his last desperate gambit fail, Jorax made a final decision. "Target the human flagship," he ordered. "Ram it if necessary. I will lead the attack myself." His command ship turned and accelerated toward the Dauntless, weapons firing continuously. But Wright was ready. "General Bennett, execute boarding operation," she ordered. From the Dauntless, 3 small, nearly invisible craft launched. They carried General Bennett and his Special Forces teams, using stealth technology to approach Jorax's ship undetected. While the Exilian command ship focused on attacking the Dauntless, Bennett's teams cut through its hull and entered. They moved through the corridors with practiced precision, disabling security systems and neutralizing resistance with non-lethal weapons. Within 15 minutes, they'd reached the bridge. Jorax turned in shock as the doors opened and human soldiers rushed in. "Impossible," he whispered as Bennett's team secured the bridge and captured the Exilian admiral. Across the battlefield, the remaining Council ships, seeing their command vessel captured, began to retreat in disarray. For the first time in its long history, the Galactic Council had suffered a decisive military defeat. 3 weeks after the Battle of Sol, representatives from across the galaxy gathered in Geneva, Switzerland. The Grand Hall of the United Nations had been modified to accommodate delegates of various sizes and environmental needs. At the center table sat President Foster, Admiral Wright, and Ambassador Miller representing Earth. Opposite them were 5 Council representatives, including a subdued Exilian delegate who had replaced the captured Admiral Jorax. Delegate Ziv of the Volari opened the proceedings. "This gathering will determine the new relationship between Earth and the Galactic Council. The battle has shown that old policies must change." The Exilian delegate spoke next, his voice stiff with forced politeness. "The Council acknowledges the unexpected outcome of recent events. We are prepared to discuss lifting the sanctions against Earth." President Foster smiled slightly. "We are not here to discuss lifting sanctions. We are here to create a new interstellar charter that recognizes the sovereignty of all spacefaring civilizations." She gestured to Ambassador Miller, who activated a holographic display showing a document. "This is our proposal," Miller explained. "A new agreement that emphasizes cooperation over control. No species may restrict another's development or expansion without true consensus." The Council representatives studied the document with various expressions of surprise and reluctance. The Exilian delegate seemed especially uncomfortable. "This would fundamentally change the structure of galactic governance," he objected. The Council has maintained order for 10,000 years. The Council has maintained Exilian dominance for 10,000 years, corrected Delegate Curval of the Triaxians, who sat at a side table. Perhaps it is time for true equality. Admiral Wright spoke for the first time. We could have continued the battle. We could have pushed into Council space. Instead, we offer partnership. Discussion continued for days. Eventually, a new agreement emerged. The Geneva Accords, as they became known, established a reformed galactic structure where no single species could dominate others. The sanctions against Earth were not just lifted but declared illegal under the new charter. 1 year later, the first human-designed faster-than-light colony ships prepared to leave Earth. The massive vessels contained not just human crews, but also representatives from formerly restricted species who had joined the new alliance. Dr. Blackwood stood with Admiral Wright on the observation deck of the new diplomatic station orbiting Jupiter. Through the vast windows, they watched as 3 colony ships moved toward their jump points. Hard to believe it's been only 2.5 years since the Council tried to cage us in our own system, Blackwood said. Wright nodded. They never understood humanity. Throughout our history, we've overcome every limit placed upon us. The first colony ship reached its jump point and disappeared in a flash of light, heading toward a distant star where humans would build their first extrasolar settlement under the new charter. What happens now? Blackwood asked. Will the peace last? That depends on whether the Council species can adapt to the new reality, Wright replied. Some, like the Volari and Kethlar, have embraced the change. The Exilian are still resistant. General Bennett joined them, now serving as head of the Joint Human-Alien Security Force that patrolled Alliance space. The Neridal Elder sent a message, he told them. Their people have voted to emerge from isolation and join the Alliance formally. Wright smiled. Another civilization the Council tried to contain, now free to grow again. On the main colony ship, Captain Lisa Rodriguez sat in the command chair. Her crew included humans, Triaxians, and even 2 Volari scientists who had requested to join the expedition. Jump complete, her navigator announced. We've arrived at the Thoth CD system. Rodriguez looked at the view screen showing a beautiful yellow star with multiple planets. One of them, a blue-green world third from the sun, would become humanity's first true colony beyond Sol. Send the message to Earth, she ordered. New Hope colony fleet has arrived safely. Back on the Jupiter station, Blackwood and Wright received the transmission. Wright watched as more colony ships prepared to depart. They wanted to keep us contained because they feared what humanity might become, she observed. They never understood that what makes us dangerous is the same thing that makes us valuable. We never accept limitations imposed by others. As the ships disappeared into the darkness, humanity took its place among the stars not as subjects, but as architects of a more just galactic future.